And go. Hi, my name is rzr360. I'm going to be running Ninja Gaiden Black, 80% normal. To give a quick introduction to the game as we start off. This is a 3D action platformer developed by Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja. Some modern games you might have heard of are going to be like Neo. That's pretty much the main one. They've also developed a lot of other games like the Dead or Alive series. And Koei Tecmo was the original creators of the 2D Ninja Gaiden games for the NES, which is why they kind of took over this series and created the 3D version. Now, the original Ninja Gaiden 3D game was released on Xbox in 2004, which we call NG04 because of that. And this game was released the year after, 2005, because the director of the game was told that the first game was too easy. So he wanted to make something a little bit harder for people. And so he ended up making one of the most difficult games ever. And consequently also one of the best games ever, in my opinion. And just objectively so as well. That this game is just very well made. And is very good. If you like something hard, then this is the game for you. It gets compared to Dark Souls a lot, but it's honestly nothing like Dark Souls. And I don't really like that comparison either, to be honest. But the game starts off kind of similarly to how the rest of it's going to play in this chapter. So chapter 1 is going to be me moving around and collecting the progression items in order to continue. Like, I picked up the Fangs of the Samurai, and I'm going to use that to grab a key. And then I'm going to use that key to open the last area in the level. Which is going to lead me to a boss fight. That's how most of the chapters in this game are going to run. They're going to go moving around through the area and collecting the progression item to get to the boss fight at the end. There are a couple exceptions to that, and we'll talk about those as they come up. But for the most part, that's really what it's going to be. There will be some fights along the way. We're going to pretty much avoid most of the enemies other than the ones that we absolutely have to fight, which can be kind of problematic for the speedrun because there is money in this game and we do have a requirement to get some things with the money. So we have to make sure that we kill the enemies in such a way where we're going to gain a lot of money from them. And there is a way we can guarantee that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, because what's coming up next is actually the first boss fight. Now, the first boss fight is a character named Mirai. This is not an easy fight. In fact, a lot of new players, this is the very first hurdle they come to, so I'm going to kind of need to focus on him a little bit. Just give me just a sec. Okay, that's Mirai. You don't actually have to kill him because he's kind of like a tutorial boss, but he's also training Ryu. But yeah, he's not a slouch. He attacks very fast. He can block, and he can go from a block to an attack or a grab very quickly. A lot of people rage quit on this boss, despite being the first boss. He's not a slouch in any regard. So that's the first chapter down. And we find out from the first chapter that Ryu is being trained by Mirai, like I was saying. And after the training, Ryu finds out that his village is being attacked by Ayane, who we didn't see because we skipped the cutscene. But she comes to tell Mirai what's happening, finds Ryu there, and his village is under attack. So we have to go and try to get to the village as quickly as possible to save the people. And the reason that this is all happening is because Ryu is part of the Hayabusa clan, which protects the Dark Dragon Blade. Now, Ryu has the counterpart to the Dark Dragon Blade in his hand, which is the Dragon Sword. And so he's kind of the watchman on guard currently. He's supposed to be protecting the village, and he's supposed to be protecting the blade. So it's kind of a dereliction of duty for Ryu to not be there. So he's trying to save his people currently. And the whole point of the game is going to be to deal with these people that attacked his village. And we'll get more into the story as we go along, but basically what's going to happen is Ryu's going to fail in his mission, and he's going to try to do the rest of the game to get the Dark Dragon Sword back. So something that I did pick up along the way that I really want to talk about right now is Ninpo. You can start to see this flaming orb underneath my health bar now. After I picked it up, I picked up the Scroll of Fire Wheels, and I'm going to use the money I got in Chapter 1 to buy the next Ninpo, which I'm actually going to use soon, which is the Scroll of Inferno. Ninpo is very powerful. Ninpo gives Ryu invincibility during his casting and then does a lot of damage. So Ninpo is very important for the run, and we're going to use it quite often because it's going to be one of the best ways to clear a lot of enemies and deal with very problematic enemies as well, and even bosses to an extent. So this first fight is really important because he's got these horsemen. They're annoying because they ride around and they're pretty quick. They can dodge attacks pretty well. The normal way to deal with them is to shoot them with arrows, but they can kind of hyper armor the arrows sometimes, so that's not a reliable way to deal with it. So if I hit them with Inferno though, they'll fall off their horses, and then I can kill them once they're off their horses pretty easily. And this guy, he dodged the fireball, but that's okay. I can kill him, clean him up pretty quick. So they're much easier to deal with when they're not on the horse. Then speaking of horses, we're coming up to the second boss of the game. So we're kind of moving through these pretty quickly. This is Masakato. He's also on a horseman, but we don't have Ninpo anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to shoot him with arrows. Now Masakato, just like the other horseman, he can hyper armor the arrows, just like he did right there. And so what I'm hoping is going to happen is Ryu's going to shoot him and hit him, because we just hip fire here in order to keep the mages at bay. And what I want is Ryu to not miss, which Ryu can do because he's got bad aim a lot of the time whenever he aims on his own. And Masakato not to hyper armor, which Masakato is honestly pretty nice, so didn't have to worry too much about it. Alright, so that's the first 2 chapters down. So the next chapter, I want to talk about some other stuff that's going to be happening throughout the run with regards to what we call ultimate techniques and essence. So ultimate techniques are when Ryu does kind of like this charge move and you can start to see his sword glowing. You can charge the attack in a couple different ways. One way is naturally by just holding down Y. And the other way is by absorbing essence. Now, essence you've seen around. It's the orbs that come off of enemies after they're defeated. And there's 3 types: yellow, blue, and red. What I want is to see a bunch of yellow essence in this chapter, because there are 2 levels to ultimate techniques: a single charge and a full charge. If a yellow essence will give Ryu a single charge, but a blue or a red will give Ryu a full charge. Now, full charges do a lot of damage, but the issue is they have like this kind of long animation to them. So we want to avoid that long animation, since most of these enemies are going to die to a single first charge ultimate technique anyways. So we call the first charge an ET or essence technique normally, and we call the full charge an actual UT or ultimate technique. Oh man, this guy is being aggressive. It's okay, we'll just dispatch him like that. Wait for the other guy and kill him with the ultimate technique. So the reason I want to kill them with ultimate techniques as well is because it guarantees they drop the yellow essence. So when you kill an enemy with an ultimate technique, or an ET, first off, when you kill them with an ET, they drop 3 times the normal amount of money that they would be worth, guaranteed. So if the enemy is worth 50 essence, then they would drop 150 essence. And I should note that yellow essence is the currency in this game. If I kill them with a full charge or UT, they'll drop 7 times the normal amount. So like I was saying in chapter 1, we try to guarantee that we get the right amount of money for each chapter, and that's by killing enemies with ultimate techniques. So it guarantees that they drop money, and it makes them worth more as well. And so clean these up. So something else that I was doing as well throughout this chapter is I was killing an enemy and leaving the essence behind. I did that after the first fight and the second fight, and the reason I was doing that was so that I could actually pull the essence from the previous fight into the next fight, so I can automatically start it with an ultimate technique. I did that twice. I don't need to do it here because the next fight's going to be too far away. Essence only lasts about 8 seconds of in-game time, which in-game time is any time I can control Ryu. So we have to move quick. I am going to save here because in this next part, if I fall off the ship, I could actually just instantly die, and I would have to start over from chapter 1, which we don't want to do. So in this fight, I'm going to pop open that box, which spawns an essence, and then I'm going to use that to just chain ultimate techniques on these guys. Oh. These guys are being hyper aggressive today. What the heck? Yeah, so some of these enemies can just be very aggressive or kind of passive. They can kind of play as if they're on higher difficulties, even on normal. They are an interesting group. So these guys I have to make sure I kill, because if I don't, they'll shoot me while I'm on the wire and I'll fall off, and that'll be an instant death. There is no saving from that. It's just, you die. So this part, I'm going to come around here. I'm going to knock this guy off the ship so I don't have to deal with him. So the whole point of what's going on now, like this puzzle essentially, is Ryu is on an airship to try to get to Tehran, because the people that attacked his village worked for Doku, who is a black-clad samurai and a greater fiend. Doku works for the Holy Vigor Emperor, and the seat of the empire is in the city of Tehran. So we are attempting to try to get to the city and trying to find Doku and the Emperor so that we can get the Dark Dragon Blade back. While Ryu was stowing away on the ship, the Tehran military, who happen to actually hate ninjas a lot, find out that there is a ninja on board, so they send this military force out to get Ryu. So once we find out that we've been made, we trying to deal with the military presence on the ship, and a lot of the doors are locked, so we have to get a key. So during the purpose of getting the key, we also find out that most all of the doors will unlock if there's, or all of the doors will definitely unlock if there is a power outage. So we go cut the power, and now we're trying to move up to the top of the ship so that we can deal with the military's commander, who's going to be the third boss of the game. His name is Dynamo, and he is an interesting boss. He's got a lot of moves. Some of them are really slow, so we want to try to avoid them if we can. We do have ways to mitigate whether or not he does them as well. But so in this fight, I'm going to use the smoke bombs and the lunar, as well as fire wheels. So smoke bombs are a really interesting item. They have a really unique property in that they make Ryu kind of invisible to the enemies. So what's going to happen is I'm going to use a smoke bomb, and he's going to target where the smoke bomb was. And there we go. that is Dynamo down. So smoke bombs are actually one of the most overlooked items in the game. A lot of new players feel like that they don't do anything, but they actually do a lot, and they're really, really powerful, especially on higher difficulties. We don't get to showcase just how powerful they are in the speedrun because we kind of use them more defensively for that fight, but we will use them another point as well. But if you're ever curious about how they work, what you want to try to do is make sure that the enemies can see the bomb when it explodes, and then you can use that to, you have enough time to charge an ultimate technique. And so usually they also work by eliminating enemies with armor who would normally block or dodge your attacks. They just, the smoke bombs will eliminate it, so you can get a free hit in off of it. So like the smoke bombs are extremely powerful for a lot of like more higher difficulty enemies as well. And sometimes I'll use them just to make sure that those soldiers don't get a chance to attack me. And so here I am going to equip Inferno because for the next fight. So a lot of the fights in this segment of the game are going to be me kind of spawn camping the enemies because I know where they're going to come from. It's already predetermined. So if there's any Call of Duty players out there, you might want to turn away since, you know, Call of Duty fans hate spawn camping. But so the first two guys we bash against the wall, or try to, and then the next group we shoot with Inferno, and that clears them up pretty quickly. So yeah, that's just the power of Nimpo. So next we get a really useful item for the speedrun. This is the Spirit of the Devils. It's going to be an additional Nimpo slot for Ryu. Like I said, Nimpo is extremely powerful. So even though that item is technically kind of out of the way, it's actually much faster to pick it up so that we can have the extra Nimpo for later parts in the game, because there's going to be a part where we'll need a lot of Nimpo, where we're just going to basically spam it. So the more slots we have, the better for that. So now we're just kind of doing the puzzle segment of the game. So when we land in Tehran, we get a letter from Ayane about going to Han's bar. We need to get there so we can try to get information about Doku, because we hear that he's in the city somewhere. So that's where we're trying to go right now. So I do want to mention as well, something important about the game is movement. And you see, I'm doing a lot of this roll jumping movement. That's actually the fastest form of movement in the game for a flat plane. There are other forms of movement as well, which we call on-landing jumps, or just running normally. Running normally is the slowest you can do. And then on-landing jumps is almost as fast as roll jumps, but not quite. But it does have its uses, and I'll go over that later as well. And here, I'm going to try to do a little trick, which I actually ended up doing. I duped the Spirit of the Devils by forcing the menu to transition rapidly. After I select it, I can actually get an additional Nimpo slot that normally I would only get one from that, so I would actually have 2 Nimpo here, but because I got the dupe, I now have 3 Nimpo, which lets me use more and more, and this is going to be very useful in the coming chapter. So, cleared up that chapter nice and quick. This is actually one of the only chapters in the game that doesn't have a boss fight. There is one other chapter. So this is kind of like a lower point in terms of action in the game. So now we enter chapter 5, and at the top of Han's bar we get a key, which is going to open up the city a little bit more for us. So we are going to make our way through the city. The other forms of movement that I want to talk about, because they're going to come up relevant here soon, is wall running and what's called flying bird flips as well. So wall running is important for a lot of the platforming aspects of the game. We're going to use it to actually get over this area because you actually can't get over it normally. So there's an aspect to wall running as well. When you're coming up around a corner, you can jump to continue the wall run on the next wall, and that raises Ryu's height when he does that. So we can actually use that in a couple of spots in an unintended way to gain height to get to platforms that we normally wouldn't be able to reach. But so that's kind of how the skips work in this game as well. We're going to be using a lot of like the in-game mechanics to do a lot of the skips. And really the only glitch that we have is the dupe. There was an out of bounds that we found, but we were debated by it because we found out that once you finish the chapter after using that out of bounds, you soft lock the game. So it was no longer viable once that happened. But so yeah, we really only have the one glitch right now. There's been a lot of work put into optimizing this game, but glitch hunting is kind of hard because this game is only on the Xbox. And so the accessibility to this particular version of the game is kind of tight. And now it's on every version of the Xbox. So if you have an Xbox and are interested in playing this game, I highly recommend picking it up. It is the best game ever made by far. And it's definitely worth playing through at least once. Even more so if you're an action game fan or a platforming fan. I will also mention that there was a Master Collection released for this game recently. Now that's not this version of the game. That's actually a different version called Ninja Gaiden Sigma. It's still really good. It plays similarly. It's just what? You didn't die. Okay. It is a tad different. But for the most part, if you want the experience of Ninja Gaiden, you will get it from Sigma. So I do highly recommend getting the Master Collection and playing Sigma if you don't have a Xbox and you want to play on PC or even Switch or PlayStation. Those are all also viable options. But if you have an Xbox, you might as well get this or both, either one. So this fight is where the first time we're actually going to encounter fiends, which are these red enemies right here. Fiends are more powerful than our human enemy counterparts. They take a lot more hits. You can see like most enemies would die to a single shot of Nimpo, but these enemies take a little bit more. I'm actually going to save the Nimpo on that because after I finish the third fiend, there's going to be a boss fight. So I'm going to swap Nimpo here. And this is Hydrocubus, which is a giant tentacle monster. Seems like it would be good for a certain form of media. Oh. But so what we do is we cast Fire Wheels. We hit it a bunch with a new combo that we received from upgrading the Dragon Sword, which is XYXXX. And we hit it with one ultimate technique, which is what that multi-hit combo that you saw me do on the ground. And then we continue XXY. And I actually got a lucky one cycle, so that's really hard to do. You have to do a precise amount of damage in order to get it. Which I didn't think I was anywhere close to getting it, so it's really cool that I ended up getting the one cycle there, because I was not expecting it at all. But yeah, it's very cool. So now we're entering Chapter 6. This is one of the more RNG heavy chapters and one of the longest chapters in the game. There's a lot to this, and it has some very difficult fights because it's very dependent on where the enemies spawn. We don't have set spawn locations in these fights, so we kind of have to guess where they're going to be. And the enemies that come out are the fiends. They are a lot more difficult to deal with than the normal soldiers, so they can be very, very mean and cost a lot of time. So we do have some ways to help in the first fight, but they kind of just do whatever they want sometimes. And like I said, enemies can pretend like they're on higher difficulties than normal. They can act like they're on hard or very hard or even Master Ninja and just like dodge all of your attacks. So here we wait for the second one to spawn, because fire wheels cleans up those flying enemies very quickly. Those flying enemies are some of the most annoying to deal with, though these guys are pretty annoying too. They can excuse me, they can kind of just like flip around like that and dodge my attack. So if they become really dodgy, what I like to do is I used to use counterattack and knock them down. So counterattack I've used a bunch actually as well. We got that scroll in chapter 2, which I neglected to mention, but there you go. So here I'm gonna pick up some necessary items. First we'll pick up the elixir of spiritual health, we'll pick up incendiary shurikens, and we'll pick up this tablet piece. If you play this game, or if you run this game, do not forget that tablet piece. It is essential to your run, because if you forget it, you will have to come back here from a very long distance away, and yeah, it's not a pleasant time. Do not forget that tablet piece. The incendiary shurikens you can't forget because they're required to break that wall, so they're progression. But the tablet piece is a late game item that's also progression. So yeah, don't forget that. So the reason that we're in the monastery is because we heard a rumor that there is an underground passage that leads to the palace of the Holy Vigor Emperor. So we're trying to get to that palace, and this book is actually going to be the key that we need to get to the lower parts. Oh, that's lucky red. So red Nimpo, which I haven't mentioned yet too much, is a Nimpo refill. So you can see I got one of my Nimpo slots back. That's actually really good. So whenever those monks teleport, by the way, they negate whatever my incendiary shuriken's explosion damage was going to be. So it's really annoying to see him constantly teleport in front of me like that every time I hit him with a shuriken. So this statue, I want to make sure I pick up right as I finish off the last enemy, because normally I can't move during that cutscene, but if I pick up this statue, for some reason I can move Ryu, so we do that just to save a little bit of time. So here we place the book, and that opens the secret passage, so let us go down and progress. So that monk room is one of the places where we can lose a lot of time. I can kind of tell like how the fight's going based off the karma timer that I have in the left part, or top left part of the window, which I should mention is required to have up for the entirety of the run. The reason for that is to eliminate the ability for people to splice the run, because you can't fake how much karma you get if it's displayed, right? So we know like what time bonuses people will get, we know what score they're going to get, because we'll know their combo and or whatever combo they get. So that's the reason why we have the karma timer up the whole time, but it's also just displays useful information throughout the game. It gives me a kill count, which tells me how many enemies I have left in each wave. Since all those waves are set, I'll know how far along I am. And then also the timer underneath will tell me like how long it took me to finish each fight. So it is a lot of useful information. If you do play this game casually, I also do recommend having it up anyway. It is very good to have. So here we come to this lower area, and there's going to be another spot that we have to get down lower for more progression items. So yeah, this whole point, like I said, is to try to get to the Palace of the Holy Vigor Emperor, or find Doku. And so you can see these guys are being really dodgy right now. I don't actually have to kill them either. The reason I'm killing them is actually just because I need a little bit more money. Actually not even gonna bother with this guy. I got plenty of money there. So yeah, I don't need to kill them. They just spawn there, and yeah, they're just for money. Okay, and here we're going to equip the new weapon that we just got, which is the Vigorian Flails. This is actually my favorite weapon in the game. They're so fun to use, but we only use them in this chapter, sadly. But yeah, they're really cool. They're very fast, and they have a big combo, big combos that they do. So yeah, we equip those, and then we cast Inferno, and then I'm just going to throw a couple shurikens, and then blast the rest of these guys. Oh, you're just running away, aren't you? Yeah, and that deals with the mosquito fiends pretty quickly. So once we kill the mosquito fiends, their blood fills this chalice and it spawns these zombie fiends. The reason we use the flails in this chapter is because the last bit of the ultimate technique combo that flails does actually just one-shots these zombies. So, or it's more like a 3-shot, but like because it's so fast, it's basically one shot. So we'll use that to kill these guys very quickly. We want to try to get 2 of them into going at a time so that they drop 2 essence. Like I was saying earlier, a single yellow essence only gives you a single charge ultimate technique, but to get a full charge, I need either 2 yellow essence or blue essence. So here Ryu went to the right, which was very annoying, because he was targeting the other guy first, which can just happen. But so to get a full charge ultimate technique, I get 2 essence. He was just out of range, so I'm just gonna do that, clear him out real quickly, and I want to leave his essence up because I'm gonna essence pull it to the next fight. So now that we have the chalice, we actually have to go back up the elevator. We actually have to go back up all the way to the top where we when we came into this first chamber. So this elevator fight is really just these guys halfway up. The elevator is going to stop, so I need to make sure I kill a certain 2 of these, but by killing all 3 of them with the Nimpo, just guarantees that I get them all. But we time it to a point so where Ryu shoots the Nimpo right as the other required zombie spawns in. Now I don't have to kill any more of these guys. I killed this one with an ultimate technique just to get some money. That's all it's for. So I am going to kill these bats because my health is a little low, and these bats can just kind of destroy you on the ladder. They'll damage you, and they've eaten my talisman before, and it's not fun. The talisman, by the way, I picked up in chapter 1 is a talisman of rebirth. It's kind of like an extra life for Ryu, where it'll bring Ryu back to full health and full Nimpo. We want to save it for the final boss because that's unlucky. Okay. We want to save it for the final boss, so I'm going to try to not use it as much as I can. So these guys shoot somewhat randomly. I try to use block to manipulate them. They won't shoot me, or they're less likely to shoot me if I'm holding block. So I try to release and repress block at certain times to make sure that if they do hit me, I won't fall. But that one decided to hit me by delaying just a tad right as I was landing from a jump, so I didn't have the ability to block it, which is unfortunate. Sometimes they do that, and yeah, you just try to climb up again. But yeah, so we made it to the top, and we placed the chalice. That awakens this big, humongous bone dragon, who we're just going to beat his arms and legs until he falls. The flails do a lot of damage to this boss as well, so another reason why we use them. So, oh, yeah. Oh, come here. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright. So I want to try to make sure that I get all of his limbs before he changes positions like that. And I used the Inferno there to dodge the tail swipe. Tail swipes are bad. They take a lot of time. So he's going to go back to this leg, which is like one hit off. Yeah. And then he's going to transition to the final leg. Take a quick drink while I wait for him to move. Because I can't actually damage him until he places the leg down. And that's Bone Dragon down. So Bone Dragon falls, and we'll see like a unskippable cutscene coming up about what happens after he falls. But yeah, the progression of this game is actually really nice. So the game is very, very well made in its design because it actually goes around itself in a lot of areas. There's a lot of circular revisiting areas and stuff like that. And I absolutely love how it's designed because of that, because it really makes full use of like every area of the game. So this item that I just picked up, actually I haven't mentioned before, is Lives of the Thousand Gods. This is actually the second one. That's a health bar increase. It's going to be very useful because there's some bosses in the later part of the game that if I had just the base level health, they would just one-shot me. So we pick up those health bar increases. Even though they're technically quote-unquote slower, they're much safer. Make the run much more consistent, so you don't have to worry about whether or not a boss is gonna just straight up murder you. I got the cheeky push. Oh, don't want to talk to you, Muramasa. I want to buy incendiary shurikens because I am quite low, and we're gonna need them in the next couple rooms. So we're coming up to one of the hardest platforming segments in the game. The blue room is actually pretty simple, and we're gonna do something that it's not intended. Normally, you're supposed to use the bow to shoot like a kind of like Legend of Zelda eye thing that's at the beginning of the room. But by doing some clever platforming and causing Ryu to target the enemies in air with a flying bird flip, we can actually land on the platform. Now, that was just unfortunate that he shot me off right there, because it was literally the one part when they double shoot me that I can't really do anything about. But that can happen sometimes. These enemies are being very very ornery today, but it's okay. We can manage it. So blue room, yeah, there's supposed to be a platform that you can summon, and that's how you get across. In the red room, however, there is no platform to summon. It's already there. So we just have to make our way across it without falling off. I don't know why I didn't jump there. Now, I could do the, oh my gosh. Dude, they sniped me from across the room. That's great. So, oh, okay, that one's on me. Okay, well, we're gonna try to do the bird flip because they are being, like, I can see where they're aiming and they're getting really close to me on a lot of those shots. This is like one of the hardest rooms in the game, like for the speed run. Oh, okay. Because yeah, sometimes these zombies, they can just be hyper accurate for no reason. So we open these two rooms so that we can get to the final room. We're trying to get across at the top. Now, there was a bridge there. If you try to walk across that bridge normally, it breaks. So we skip that cutscene by not triggering the break and just jumping down so that we can finish these rooms. So I'm going to pick up some of these items here, and we're going to move on to the a mini boss fight in this chapter. So something that I did as well is I upgraded the Dragon Sword to level 3. Level 3 does a lot of damage and gives me access to one of the best moves in the game, which you're going to see here in a second. Oh, can you? Okay. You did not want a flying swallow. But it's this move right here, this spinning move. This is called Gleaming Blade. I was using it on the zombies a lot. It does a lot of damage. You can see, like, this Hydra Cubus has the same amount of health as the other one, I'm pretty sure. Or it's close, but because because of Gleaming Blade, I can clean it up pretty quickly. Even though I didn't get a 1 cycle on it, it's still much faster than the other one. So defeating it opens up the wall a bit so that Ryu can platform on out of here. It's funny because Tehran was, you know, they hate ninjas, right? Like I was saying earlier, they absolutely hate them. But they built their city and a lot of like their interior structures to kind of like work in ninjas' favors, which is probably why they don't like them very much. Seems like a huge security risk to have like a city where ninjas can move around almost freely, and then having them invade. So it's probably why they don't like ninjas very much. So yeah, those zombies, they derped around and couldn't hit me for nothing. I wish I had those zombies earlier. So here's another puzzle. We wall run across, and if you try to step on the floor without that wall run, the middle platform will raise and you can't get to it anymore. So, and we get the wolf deity and the skull key. Now the deity statues are also endgame items. I did pick up one earlier. We're gonna revisit that room. You can pick it up where I picked it up, or you can pick it up now, but it's very important as well not to forget those statues because they're also an endgame item. So next coming up is one of the best boss fights in the game. Very, very cool fight, very fun, very hard, and very iconic as well. A lot of people who played this game as kids will probably remember this boss fight for beating the crap out of them because she's unforgiving. So we met a character earlier and her name is Rachel, right? She's the fiend hunter. We only saw a couple glimpses of her because we skip all the cutscenes, but she tells us about how she has fiend blood in her, and that's how she's able to hunt and fight the fiends. Well, her sister Alma actually succumbed to the fiend curse, and so we're gonna try to or basically she works for Doku, so we're trying to fight her because Doku sends her after us. And well, Alma ends up falling in love with Ryu and wants to be our girlfriend, but Ryu's gonna reject her because she's a fiend. So that's just how it goes sometimes, you know. But yeah, Alma can be really annoying. She can just dodge my attacks like you see her doing. But we took her down pretty quick. There is actually a loop to doing with Inferno. And the combo that I was doing, but like I said, she can just dodge it, which she did a couple times, and that's okay. We're still able to take her down pretty quickly. So next is a Tehran military chapter, because after our assault on the monastery, the military is hyper aware of our presence, and so they send a huge detachment to deal with us. No. Okay. Oh, why are you so... Doesn't matter. Okay. I don't know why the third soldier spawned so much later than the other ones. I thought they all died at the same time. But it's alright. We were able to clear those guys because, again, we know where they're going to be spawning in, so we just spawn camp them and kill them as they come in. So you can kind of see the our other girlfriend flying around. This is the helicopter. She's a bit clingy. She doesn't want to let us go. A little bit more clingy than Alma, though, to be honest. But so we're gonna try to meet up with her towards the end of the chapter and let her down easy. Which reminds me, I do need to change to the bow. And most of this chapter is going to be just the movement back through the city. Like I said, we're revisiting areas that we've already been. and we're going to try to access a new area that we haven't been to yet. With the skull key, we're able to open a door that's in Tehran that we weren't able to open before. And that's going to be where the next progression item is going to be. But before we can do that, we actually have to unlock the progression item another way. So we have like this little fight here. So you can see like the little like area up top, just like rows. So the progression item is going to be used to unlock something there. So yeah, here's our helicopter girlfriend, and we shoot her with 4 arrows to let her know we're not interested, and she flies off. So that's kind of the quote-unquote boss fight of this chapter. There actually really isn't a boss fight, technically. This is the second and last chapter where that's going to be true. So yeah, there's only the 2 chapters that don't have boss fights. So next we're going to look at this pretty window. You can see it's different from the other windows because there's an enemy that spawns in it. And it's the only one open. So and after we kill that enemy, we get this awesome vantage point that we couldn't possibly have from where we're standing to see a really cool item. And that's the progression item we're going to need. That's the strongbow. So we're going to swap the weak bow that Ayana gave us for the Chad strongbow, and it's going to be much better for us because it's going to the weak bow that we have has like arrow drop, but the strongbow doesn't. It just shoots straight, you know. That's what you want from a bow. So first shot breaks the window, second shot hits the eye and opens the gate. Okay, thank you. Yeah, movement in this game is rough. You have to be very precise about it. Anytime that Ryu like does his own thing is really user fault, but I like to blame Ryu and say, come on Ryu, why are you doing that to me? Because sometimes he seems to like to grab onto pillars or corners or walls and just kind of does his own thing. I know it's my fault, but I like to blame Ryu. It makes me feel better about myself. So after that chapter, we get to the military base. Now this is one of my favorite chapters because there's a really cool skip in it. It skips a very annoying part of the game that I really just dislike. And it has some other really cool segments. It has some of the worst boss fights in the game, however, which is kind of sad that such a great chapter gets lumped together with the boss fights, and a lot of people really don't like it. But I don't blame them. I understand completely. But I do like the Tehran military theme and the aesthetic of the chapter. Something like I want to mention is the music in this game is just absolutely top notch. They really did a well job like making everything in this game blend together. So normally I'm supposed to go up onto an area over there onto the left, but by just doing some clever platforming by using an air destruction slash, which is an in-air X attack, and shurikens into a helm splitter, which is an in-air Y attack, where Ryu slams the sword down, I can get to a platform that I'm normally supposed to turn on the power in this room to move to get to. But yeah, so and normally after I turn on the power though, it spawns a bunch of drones, which just spawned now, which shoot lasers at me and can knock me down off the platforms very easily. So by not having to turn on the power, I don't have to deal with them at all. So now we have a fight where we're just going to shoot at these soldiers. These soldiers are just going to run at us. As long as we stand still and shoot them before they get too close, they won't ever get an attack off on us. So, and again, spawn camping. We know where they're coming. We know where they're going. So we're just going to shoot them. They are not Cotton Eye Joe, so. Goes pretty quick. unlocks the next door, and we are moving on to the first boss fight of this chapter. The first boss fight of this chapter is the tanks. Casually, it's a very annoying experience because there's not a lot of ways you can damage them other than with the bow. And that's actually really unlucky that it shot me like that there. I've never actually been stunned there before. So just keep in mind, if you're ever being shot at by a tank, you can just jump over its shells. Or hide behind a box filled with arrows, and you'll be alright. So that's what we're going to be doing here in this fight. So this next thing's going to come up from behind the box, so we're going to Nimpo just to dodge its attack and kill the gunman, and then we're going to shoot it with arrows from behind the box. So that's actually a really suspect spot. So sometimes the box can block shots, but it's got to be dependent on the angle the tank is aiming at us. So the tanks gave us some bad patterns because they moved to the right. We don't want them to move towards us to the right. We want them to move to the left so they're on the other side of the box. Because the box is supposed to tank all the hits. But that's okay. We're still able to deal with them pretty quickly. Oh, and my health went down fast. So I'm going to actually use one of these and pick up this spare here. So great spirit elixirs are important because I will need them in a coming up chapter. So I have 5 currently. I want to try to maintain having 5. So for the next little bit, I probably won't be using too many of them. I'll probably just be using the small elixirs. Oh, stop. Okay. So now our helicopter girlfriend is back, but this time we have a stronger bow and stronger arrows. So we're gonna shoot down our helicopter girlfriend with all these super strong arrows that we just got. Wow, that missed. Okay. And there we go. Helicopter girlfriend is down. I'm going to swap back to the explosive arrows because I want to try to save those arrows that I just got, the other arrows. I just call them the FTS arrows, even though that's not at all what the acronym is supposed to be. I think it's APFSDS. It's some ridiculous grouping of lettering. I remember reading what it stood for once, and all I can tell you is they're basically supposed to be tank shells. But we're gonna have a box of oh my gosh, of explosive arrows after this chapter. Oh my gosh, they are being so aggressive. I don't ever want them to throw grenades at me. They threw a bunch. I'm actually gonna heal here because grenades are really the only guaranteed way to knock Ryu out of shooting with the bow. So every arrow wastes time, or every grenade wastes time. Wow, okay. That one guy delayed his shot. That's very rare that happens to. Man, the enemies today are being very ornery. They are not behaving in the way they're supposed to. Normally, you're supposed to wall run to dodge all of their missile shots, but if one delays like that, then he shoots you right as you land, and yeah, it's not sure what causes it. But the reason we go down the elevator and into that room is we find out that that room is locked. So we have to come back up here and kill these 3 guys now. If we killed them earlier, they don't drop the key, which is kind of weird to me. I'm gonna, there we go, get some health. And so we have to come back in no matter what. So we just skipped them the first time, come back down, open the lower door after the elevator, because normally you're supposed to go down there, kill the soldiers that are in this room, and then get to the door even further below to find out it's locked, and then go back, fight more enemies, get the key, and progress. But we can just, all you have to do is open the one door, and somehow Ryu knows that the lower door is locked. So that gives him access to the train terminal, which he's going to crash a train. Yeah, he actually just straight up crashes a train into some dude who's coming from another train along the other way. Yeah, so just crashing casual trains, you know, or military trains. So you know, it's Ryu justifies it that way. So I should mention though, this is going to be kind of a loading screen. There's not really much going on, so I don't know if there's any announcements that want to be made. This would be a good time.
I can talk about a few things right here.
Yeah, got about 30
seconds.
seconds.
Bit of break has been talking for about an hour, so I just want to drop a quick fact since you've been dropping facts about this run all run. Quick facts: more than half of homelessness service in the UK have seen a rise in homelessness during the pandemic, according to a crisis survey of 150 charities. More than 60% have said that they've seen an increase in people seeking support after a recent loss of a job. And just a quick number on exactly what we're seeing here. 185 people are going without a home across that, like each of those individual charities, according to each of the support networks. So 150 charities saying that potentially 185 people are going without a home. That's a lot of people. So if you got a spare bit of change, consider donating to Crisis and help out an amazing charity supporting these people to get themselves into a home and keep safe during this pandemic. Thank you so much for all your donations so far, but I believe we can get it higher.
Yeah, it's a great cause, guys. So this chapter is another one of the longer chapters in the game. It's very movement heavy as well. A lot of platforming, and I'll be going back and forth through a lot of these areas inside of it. So my movement really needs to be tight in order to keep it fast. And there'll be these mini boss fights as well. This is actually one of the most infuriating mini boss fights. This is another big point where a lot of people would rage quit this game because this fight casually is not very fun. I would say it's okay in the speedrun because we kind of have a set way to deal with it, which is where we charge an ultimate technique to slash through it as it slams on us, and then use Gleaming Blade to punish it after the landing. And that's the first mini boss. There's going to be another mini boss and then the final boss of this chapter. So this chapter requires we go through the Hall of Balance, which is where these like scales are. We need to have the water running to both parts of the scales so that we can open the back door of this area. So that's what the mini bosses are for. They're guarding the tablets which we need to place in order to lower to bring the water down. And again, going back to the design of this game, this chapter is actually like the epitome of the design, because in order for me to progress, I have to place this tablet into the water, or into that slot to lower the water. And then inside that room where the water has been lowered is the next piece of progression item, so I can get to the next tablet. So the game forces you into this this part where you have to follow this natural progression, and then if you don't know it, you can get lost here pretty easily because a lot of these areas are somewhat open without it. So the movement, the platforming, the puzzling, like it's all very well thought out and very well designed. It's honestly just, I could gush for hours about like how great this game is and how great this chapter is. This is actually probably my favorite chapter, for just an overall layout and design. So we get the water statue, and that opens up this lower area for us, bringing us into the underground waterway. Now we'll have our next mini boss fight, and a lot of people who didn't rage quit at the first one, if they were mad enough, they probably rage quit at this mini boss because it's 2 of those worms. And whenever they shoot lightning at me, it's actually bad because that wastes time. Are you serious? And they're just gonna keep shooting lightning, aren't they? All right, very cool. Yeah, speaking about marathon luck, huh? Yeah, they are. Don't shoot. Okay. Yeah, so basically, I want to kind of have like the same idea as with the other fight. It works a little bit differently because there's two worms now, and sometimes they flip in and out like that, where neither one of them will attack me. Which also loses time. Yeah, they are. Yeah, and that one shot me while the other one was trying to grab me. See, they can both attack me at the same time. That okay, and that one grabbed me. Yeah, so they're a very annoying enemy. It's okay. We lost our talisman. That's totally fine. Just gonna shoot that one to kill it. I didn't want to jump forward, Ryu. What are you doing? Okay. And there, we finish off the worm. We do want to try to finish it off with the ultimate technique there, because we want to try to get its money. It's worth 500 essence normally, so at 3 times, we get 1500 essence from it. If I could finish it off with a full UT, I would get 7 times, get 3500 essence, but sometimes that's not very viable. So we take what we can get. Oh, I'm actually full on those, that's right. So this part, the walls and the design in this is a little bit weird. So we actually don't want to wall jump too much in that hallway because Ryu likes to cling on to the wooden like pillars. So we avoid that by just kind of running through a little bit. And see, just like that, I jumped a little too early and Ryu grabbed onto the pillar instead. So we got the second tablet now, so we can lower the water into the Hall of Balance and progress, but we have to get back up there. So the way was sealed by the worms when they spawned in. So we have to come around this area and break this wall, which leads us back to where we came down here. So now we just bird flip back up to the top, and we are golden. So we move back up to the aqueducts. We're going to come back up these stairs one more time. Or, well, I say stairs, but it's really just the wall run. And we're going to go up this way, which we haven't gone yet. And we're going to meet with Muramaza back at the shop. Now, I need to have 6,000 essence to upgrade the Lunar to level 3, which I had 10,000, which is plenty. And then enough essence to buy as many elixirs spiritual health as I can carry, which is great. We want as many of those as possible because the chapter following the next is going to be very, very tight on our health. So as I mentioned before in the military chapter, we do want to have 5 great spirit elixirs, and that's going to be for the next chapter. With the chapter after that, because we use all of our great spirit elixirs, we're really only going to have the small ones. So we want to have as many small ones as possible. So here, we just avoid those enemies. That's actually a fiend challenge, which is not a required fight at all. There's a certain number of enemies per depending on the difficulty. In normal, there's 60 of them. We don't care about killing 60 of those guys just for an optional item. So we just do the button and then move on. So we have another eye puzzle thing that we shoot, just like an Ocarina of Time. Spawns this platform which we jump across, and then we're gonna actually do a skip here where we miss it. That's okay. Try it again. It's a very tight skip, but I want to show it off because it's cool. Normally you can go around the other way and there's like a tree branch that you jump across. Oh, that's Okay. Try one more time. It's no longer about saving time. It's about looking cool. So we're going to look cool. There we go. We did it. Get some claps. All right. And so I call it the tree skip because it skips grabbing onto the tree branch. And I am actually going to save here because I don't have a talisman, and this boss can kind of just wreck you. So we're gonna do a big menu here. I used a lot of items. I used the other Spirit of the Devil that I picked up for another Nimpo slot. I also used the Jewel of the Demon Seal, which upgrades my Nimpo to level 2. I used that on Inazuma, which I picked up in this chapter. And then equip Incendiary Shurikens, Fire Wheels, and the Lunar for this boss. And Ryu just throwing the Incendiaries wherever he wants. Okay. Nice. All right. And then with Pazuzu jumping around, that's actually really bad. So I mentioned earlier, Ryu has kind of poor aim. At the first part of the fight, he totally just missed the boss's head, which lost me a lot of damage, but that's okay. So we knocked the boss's head down, and then we beat it because it's its weak spot with the Lunar, and yeah, cleans him up pretty quickly as soon as he starts to behave. If he jumps around a lot, then yeah, it becomes very annoying. So yeah, that's Pazuzu down, and now we come to chapter 11. This is the kind of the slow pace chapter. So in like the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, every action game thought it was a good idea to incorporate a water level into their games, which totally kills the pacing of the game. So this is the quintessential water level of Ninja Gaiden. And it is just as annoying as any other ones. It's really slow. There's not a lot to talk about in this chapter. I'm just going to be swimming around. Really, the only thing I should mention is the camera control through it, and that's because so you use right trigger to reset the camera anytime we turn with Ryu. I'm going to be spamming A to swim and spamming right trigger on corners in order for Ryu to take the corners tighter, and that's really it. For as far as movement is concerned, the only other thing to note is on the left hand side there's my oxygen bar, so pay attention to that, because if it depletes, Ryu will start to take damage. It won't just drown, he'll just start taking damage. But if I had a Talisman of Rebirth, it wouldn't save Ryu from drowning. It's considered a hazard death, so Ryu would just straight up die without, even with the Talisman. But we don't have a talisman, so we'll die either way. So we are going to save at one point in this chapter just to make sure that we don't have to do Pazuzu and then do the opening swimming segments. You can see swimming takes a very long time. So dying in this chapter, or dying during the swimming portions, wow. Cheeky laser shooting me right after I get out of the room into the tunnel. Kill these guys and so I can access this. Yeah, so swimming takes a long time, so dying, you know, loses a ton of time if you have to do any swimming segments again. So we don't want to do that at all. So here's the first part. There is an item that you're supposed to get called the oxygen tank. We're not going to get it because it takes about 1.5 minutes to do so. So we're just going to bypass it completely, and we're going to deal with Ryu taking a lot of damage, which is actually why we need a lot of the Great Spirit Elixirs, because in order for Ryu to continue to breathe underwater, he needs to drink a lot. And some of us in the community suspect that the elixirs are laced with, you know, something a little bit stronger than just healing. It makes Ryu act really funny. It's, you know, we're not 100% sure on it, but you know, it could have something to do with how he's able to breathe underwater, I guess. Or not really breathe underwater, but not die anyway. So I am going to use one here, just as a little like safety measure. But my health is low enough that there will be bats when I come out of the water that can kill me. And again, no talisman, don't want to die. It'd be very, very bad. So just gonna heal up a little bit there, but not completely, because I still want to save the Great Spirit Elixirs. And then we'll equip an Azuma, so I can show it off against these enemies, because it looks really cool. I just want you guys to see it. Like, it's got like this lightning effects. It's very sick. No, we use it to clear them up, so because the mosquito fiends drop a lot of blue essence, and blue essence is health, so we want to try to get back to full health without having to use any more healing items. So that's why we use it there. You don't have to do that. You can use the Great Spirit Elixir and just avoid killing them altogether, but they're also kind of annoying and try to hit you after you come out of putting the medallions in place. So it's good to clear them up as well, even though it just takes a couple seconds. So that opens up the last area of this part. We're actually going to go down into a very familiar area next. So we have like this crack in the ground, and we're going to swim Ryu right over to that big hole and swim down it. But yeah. In this next part, however, we call it the deep dive, and I'm going to try to swim through the area very tight movement to eliminate Ryu hitting anything, but also keeping an eye on my oxygen and health levels, because I need to heal at certain parts. If I move poorly or heal too early, then I won't have enough time to get to the end of the chapter, and Ryu will die. So I do need to focus on this part quite a bit, so give me just a moment. Especially as soon as the oxygen level hits 0, then that's when the focus will begin. So I need to get to a certain part. I usually try to be past like the 5th archway. So yeah, about here. Okay. Okay, we made it. And now I'm going to save so I don't have to do that again. And we're going to come up to one of my favorite boss fights in the game. Absolutely amazing boss fight. This is Doku, actually. The guy we've been chasing this entire time. Finally come face to face with him. For everything he did. He killed us in Chapter 2 at the beginning. And he killed a lot of people in our village. So Ryu is very excited to deal with this boss. Now, the strat we use against this boss is Lunar. We use forward YYX and then just kind of let Ryu land. And it's able to dodge most all of Doku's attacks and just kind of go over his head, which is a lot better than our old strat. Our old strat used to be Gleaming Blade with the Dragon Sword, and that was a really scary strat because Doku could sometimes be one of those things that would just take your talisman or kill you. He can still kill you really easily, don't get me wrong, even with this strat, but this strat's a lot safer than the old strat and is faster as well. So faster, safer, I signed up for it right away. So here we're going to use some clever platforming. This is, we're going to do some wall run techniques to gain some height to get to a spot where we're not really supposed to go. There's supposed to be a puzzle where we move those platforms in the center around. We just completely circumnavigate it by going up to the top, hitting the last lever, and moving on with the rest of the chapter. You'll notice that when I, sometimes when I land, I'll do like this little flourish with the sword. That's an on-landing X attack with the dragon sword. The reason I do that is actually because when there's a long landing, Ryu has recovery animations. Where he kind of like kneels down and has to stand up. That cancels it. It's just a little bit faster than it, so we'll try to do that whenever we have a longer landing. If I can, I tried to do a forward X attack, which is where we will roll forward and jumped a little too early. We will do roll forward slash, but even just like the little flourish, like spinning flourish, is good enough. So there we equip the lunar just to break that sword down, or that wall down, and then go back to the dragon sword because it's going to be better for a lot of the platforming we're going to do in this chapter. This is another one of my favorite chapters because of the platforming. There's a lot of really cool platforming in this area. And we have a lot of skips because of how the platforming and like design worked out that are just like, they're really cool. And yeah, I want to gush about them as much as I can, but like it's really just better just to show them off. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Oh. Why was that shallow? Interesting. I probably X'd a little too soon. That's okay. So we need to pick up these little like tablet things to open the doors. So these are the progression items. There's going to be another one we'll need to get, but we'll actually have to make the other one. So yeah, that's one of the skips I was talking about actually. Skips having to go all the way back down and doing the bird flip at the end of that room. So that trick is actually really hard because of it requires precise button pushing and also stick control. Like, so stick control is really important for movement in this game. You have to constantly press forward and release the stick, or press backwards and release in order to get Ryu to move in the right ways. That's another skip right there that I just did as well. Normally you're supposed to saddle on the wall there to get across, but we don't do that. We just jump across. So next is coming up one of the more fun skips as well. Trying to show that off. And yep, we just get up to the top here. Normally you're supposed to go on like this little seesaw thing that you saw like right as we entered, like just out of frame a little bit, and then go across into like this tunnel. But yeah, we just wall run across, do shuriken Y, and land up at the platform here. And then we can wall run back, and if you do it right, you can actually land on the top platform, but it's kind of like precise, and I don't know why it happens sometimes and doesn't the others, but I am going to heal a little bit here just because I don't want to die. This is another skip, so by doing wall runs into a wall jump run, we can actually get up there without having to hit a button or go around. So yeah, I got to show off like all the really... Oh, that's scary. Okay, got to show off all the really cool skips so far. Yeah, and Ryu does love the lava as well, I should mention. He just loves to land in it sometimes, and he likes to take his baths in the lava. We don't like him to do that because he takes a lot of damage doing that. One of the ways you can actually lose a lot of time in this chapter is by taking a lot of damage from the lava and having to heal a lot. So this is Jotunfrau. She's really nice. She's being really passive. So she can just like sit here sometimes, and I can get her down to about half health before she does anything. What I don't want her to do is this attack. This is an Ice Slam attack where during the first parts of it, she's invulnerable. And she does a lot of damage if she can hit me. Luckily, she's really slow, but she can... with this health bar, she can actually take probably a good 75% or more of it with a single attack. The grab she does would probably kill me at this health, in fact. I would have to be at full health to survive it. Okay, see there, I didn't actually release the stick in time, and that's actually why I didn't get to skip that time. So that can show you the precise control you kind of need for it. I just thought I'd mention that to show you, like, getting it the first time was like really cool. Okay. And there we go. Get that one. And so we got the cog. We could have come like into this area before, but there would have been no reason to. Because we'd have to fight Jotunfrau anyway. So yeah, the progression through here is really nice too, because you go back and forth a lot again, and it's pretty cool. So I'm actually full. Excuse me. All right, now we have another worm. This is the fire worm, or the spicy worm, or spicy noodle, as we like to call him sometimes. He's very similar to the other worms, except that his shoot attack isn't. Are you serious? How did that miss? Anyway, isn't like a lightning orb. It's a fire ring that you jump through. The other difference is that it has a little bit less health than the other ones as well, but it is worth more essence. So it's worth 700. So killing it with the ET there gives me 2100 essence, which is a lot of essence. So essence is still very much a factor in this part of the run. We're coming up towards the end of the game in a little bit, but we still need a lot of money for the final segment. So you can see this is where Ryu just loves to jump into the lava. So we got the Eye of Fire and the Eye of Ice. We put it into the stone statue, and that opens this door, which leads us to the final boss. So progression, 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 final boss. So here I'm going to heal a little bit, and I'm going to equip the Lunar again, because we're going to use that against this boss. This is the third statue that we pick up, and then Smaugen. So we're just going to try to hit him with big combos with the Lunar. And we're going to jump into the lava, and I'm actually going to heal here. We're also going to use fire wheels just to get a little bit extra damage. And there we go. So jumping onto Smaugen here is actually kind of scary, especially if you're at lower health, because sometimes Ryu will just miss and fall into the lava again. But so here we pick up another Lives of the Thousand Gods, which we're going to use, and we're going to equip Inazuma, because we're going to use that for a huge portion throughout the rest of the run. 8:27 in-game time for this chapter is actually pretty good. Especially considering some of the missed skips, but that's okay. So here we're just gonna do wall run up this shaft by continually jumping. Oh, wow! All right then. Sure why that happened. Normally Ryu won't wall cling like that unless you like over your stick, but I was holding it. Concerning. Okay, so we've unlocked this door, and this actually leads us to an area we've been before. If you remember the underground waterway, this is where we fought the double worms and picked up the blue tablet a couple chapters ago. Yeah, we're back here. So this chapter is going to be revisiting a lot of areas that we've been to before. It's one of the circular parts of the run. I'm gonna pick up some incendiary shurikens there as well, so I don't have to buy those. And then this leads into arguably the hardest boss fight in the game, and I say arguably because there's at higher difficulties, there's definitely no case to make for the fact that this boss isn't the hardest. Like, this boss is definitely very, very hard. Personally, I like to think I think there's another boss that's a bit harder on normal, just because of how it moves. But on higher difficulties, the next boss coming up is definitely the hardest boss for sure. And we'll talk about her when we get to her. But in the meantime, just kind of want to like hype up the fact that that the boss is actually like is insanely difficult. Like we fought a lot of different bosses throughout the run. Alma being, you know, one of the big one of the bigger hurdles. I mean, even Mirai at the beginning is a very hard boss. Doku is casually a difficult boss. We kind of trivialized him in the speedrun, but he can attack very fast if you're not careful. And that's really one of the major differences with this game compared to Sigma and even NGO4, is that the bosses in this game attack way faster than a lot of the other games. And so this part is actually, I'm going to do this real quick. I do want a Talisman of Rebirth for the next boss because I could die very easily. So I'm going to kill these guys real quick. And they're going to drop me a Talisman. I'm just going to shoot them with 5 Inazuma. And yeah, they are worth a lot of money, even just like dying normally. So I do want to pick up their money as well. And then yeah, I'm going to pick up the Talisman just in case. Because we want to be marathon safe. And the enemies so far haven't been very kind. So I'm worried about the next boss not being kind as well. In fact, I think the only kind enemy so far I've had was Doku, who wasn't blocking me very much and just kind of like taking the hits. So this part we haven't gone to before yet, but there's actually another tablet piece. So if you notice, we've actually picked up 3 so far. The first one we picked up like a long time ago, and then the next 2 we picked up this chapter and the previous chapter. They go into this little heart statue piece right here, which is going to trigger the twin snake statue, which is a teleporter. And the teleporter is going to take us to the Hayabusa village. Remember I told you, like, this game goes back and revisits a lot of areas so that you can progress to the next spot. Yeah, so the fact that that leads to the Hayabusa village is like a really awesome part. And then you get this really like somber music as the village is still recovering from the attack, and you come up to the graveyard to move on to the next area, and you see a new grave. This is actually the grave of Kureha. We didn't see her at all because again we skipped the cutscenes, but she's actually was a dragon priestess that Doku killed and a very good friend of Ryu's. But she had the eye of the dragon, which is a little talisman that Ryu puts into the dragon sword and turns it into the true dragon sword, which is basically like the level 4 sword, and it's a lot more powerful. It does a ton of damage. It's actually one of the best weapons in the game. And if you don't level up the dragon sword at all, the game gives it to you for free no matter what, but it's still really good. So this is the boss fight I was mentioning. This is Awakened Alma, which is a harder version of Alma. So there's no Nimpo loop like the first Alma is. We just kind of have to hope that our attacks hit. So, because she can just hyper armor any attack. Oh. So we want to try to knock her down and hit her with a gleaming blade. She's actually being okay-ish. But yeah, you can see where she'll just hyper armor. And there we go. That's Awakened Alma. She was actually not too mean to us. That was pretty good. She can get pretty grabby, try to snatch you up in her lower abdomen area, and that grab would take almost all my health because I don't have very many health upgrades. So we want to avoid getting grabbed by her. Nope. So next we have like a little puzzle where we put these tablets in place to open the doors, and then they're going to spawn these pill bugs. These pill bugs spawn 30 at a time. What we want to try to do is just spam Nimpo. I am going to use the Lunar Ultimate technique to spin kill them because I do want some money. And I want to really hope that they drop some red Nimpo. So far they haven't been too kind on that. It's okay. They're still being cleaned up pretty quick. So we did that the one time. We will have to do that one more time because when we place the next tablet, they'll spawn in again. So here, I think, yeah, I am going to use the Great Devil Elixir as well, just to get more Nimpo. So I want to hope for 2 Nimpo drops throughout this wave. Doesn't look like I'm gonna get it. So I'll clean these guys up with the UT. And this should be the final wave. Clear them up with Inazuma, and there we go. Now we have this long cutscene, and that's the end of this chapter. So 819 with getting the talisman is actually pretty good, because it takes about 40 seconds or so to get that talisman. So this is the 4th and final statue. I think I said the other statue was the 4th. This is the 4th one, and that's the not technically the final statue, but it's the final one that we'll need to get to the last area anyway. So in this chapter, however, this is called the Labyrinth, and we see Spirit Doku. So Doku isn't dead. He turned into a spirit form and escaped from us after we defeated the Black Samurai form. And so we're still hunting Doku. So the mission is not over yet. And Doku is guarding the Holy Vigor Emperor. Now, after we defeated Doku, he did mention to us that the Dark Dragon Blade is held by the Vigor Emperor. So part of our quest is retrieving that, so we do need to get to him. So we're gonna have to go through Doku and through a couple other Greater Fiends as well that are still remaining. We actually meet one of those Greater Fiends here. This is Marbus, but we don't see him because we skip his cutscene, so we don't see a lot of these characters until a little bit later, fortunately. But Marbus is a goat-looking Greater Fiend with these big bat wings, yeah, he spawns these other lesser fiends to try to fight us. I'm gonna buy one of those actually, since I used 2. So here I am going to equip the True Dragon Sword again. We will equip the Lunar one other time for one short segment, but the True Dragon Sword is going to come into really handy for this segment because we're coming up on one of the most hated enemies in this game, which are the ghost fish. So I mentioned on landing jumps way early on in the run when I was talking about movement. On landing jumps have another unique property. They actually give Ryu iframes because when Ryu starts a jump and when he's landing on a jump, he's invulnerable for just a little bit. He's not invulnerable in the air, but he is invulnerable to some things like grabs. So we're going to use the on landing jumps to avoid getting grabbed by the ghost fish. Ghost fish can kind of like chain grab Ryu too, so getting grabbed by them is really scary. They can eat a talisman or even kill Ryu very quickly. So, yeah, that was actually really nice, because sometimes that crab fiend, the black fiend with the sharp claws that's summoned, they can be really annoying, shoot a lot of lasers at you, and he's a pain in the butt. And then the ghost fish can grab you from that, and yeah, it's not a good time. So we have more ghost fish. They're gonna like the central theme. What's interesting about the ghost fish is they weren't ever originally designed to be an enemy in this game. You know, as you can see them grabbing me there. But they weren't ever designed to be an enemy in the game. When they were first designed, they were supposed to just kind of be like a set piece. But then the director of the game, when he saw them, was like, this is an action game, and we already have like a very light enemy chapter where you're putting them. I want you to make them do something. So the guy who designed them decided to make them do the absolute worst thing possible they could ever imagine. Which is what they're doing now. But overall, if you learn how to on landing jump, you can deal with them pretty easily. So we actually went through them pretty quick. So now this is a relatively short chapter because we're about to fight Spirit Doku. And he is blocking me. I'm just gonna back off of him real quick. I'm gonna heal up. Because fighting him close, he's being kind of annoying. So what I want to wait for him to do is to charge at me. And he's just gonna keep throwing stuff at me. It's great, cool. Oh, why did... I'm not kind of confused why Ryu jumped away. So normally wind sprint, which is like where I jump with like this blue outline, Ryu will go towards the nearest enemy. I don't know why he went away. That first jump, that's okay. Okay, so now we're just waiting for Doku to charge at us again. Stop throwing stuff at us, there we go. And finish him off with the Gleaming Blade. You can fight him close, but I wanted to be safe because I still want to keep my talisman, so I wasn't going to do that here. So, this is chapter 15. This is the second to last chapter in the game. There's one more after it. But this is by far one of the longest. It's going to have some... a big gauntlet in it. Kind of like two gauntlets, really. And then 2 boss fights. There's going to be a lot of enemies. This is the chapter where I'm going to be spamming my Nimpo most of the time. Which is why I've been collecting all of these devil elixirs for this moment right here, and why the dupe is so important for the run. It's not really, you don't need the dupe in order to finish the run, and it's actually pretty hard to get, so you can miss it, but it does make this chapter a lot easier and a lot faster. So next, we're going to have some cutscenes where it shows off the core of the Imperial Palace. There's also going to be another cutscene where Ayane talks about us. Oh, I should mention Ryu's blue skin. So after Ryu defeated Doku, Doku cursed him with the Fiend Curse because Ryu has dragon blood in him, and apparently the origins of the dragon blood is similar to the Fiend's blood, which is what Rachel and Alma have. So because of that, Ryu is technically susceptible to the Fiend Curse. So Doku curses him and is trying to turn Ryu into a fiend. But Ryu, being really powerful, retains himself and tries to fight against it. He knows that if he can kill the Vigor Emperor, he can break the curse, though. So that's what we're going to try to do. I do want to hopefully get a bunch of red Nimpo from these enemies. Or the red orbs. But I didn't get any from the first room. That's okay. And on each of the stairwells are more ghost fish. So we're just going to try to on landing jump our way through. A little cheeky guy bit me towards the end there.
Cleaning up these fights. Do you mind if I jump in and talk about my charity a bit?
No, yeah, go ahead. It's just gonna be me fighting.
So, today, with UKSG and through tomorrow as well, we're going to be raising money for Crisis, a charity dedicated to helping homeless people. So I want to talk about them in a little bit of their own words as well. So, Crisis help homeless people find and keep a rented home, and they do this by working with landlords to ensure a supply of places to live and giving homeless people the tools and knowledge they need to rent successfully. The Home and Resource Centre provides information and training for housing professionals to help us. The help rent database lists private sectors renting schemes across the UK. We carry out pioneering research into the causes and consequences of homelessness and campaign for the changes needed to end this cycle for everyone for good. Working with others, we also produce a plan to end homelessness once and for all, and are interacting with the government as well to try and get the government to focus more on helping the homeless as well by just continuously putting pressure on the government to put more money into the homeless scheme and get more people out of homelessness and into homelessness. Thank you so much for everyone who's donated, and for those of you who plan to continue to donate as well. So if you've got a little bit of spare change lying around, please do consider giving you a little bit to do this amazing charity and continue supporting UKSG. And look forward to ESC's next marathon coming up soon as well.
So yeah, this is the fourth and final floor for the for this part of the gauntlet. So all we have to do now is get up the stairs to the top, and we'll have just a little bit more to go for this chapter with another gauntlet. And let's see. So here we can actually see Marbus. He's back there sitting on this little throne. He's going to summon a bunch of enemies at us. For the Shadow Fiends, again, it's mostly just going to be spamming Nimpo. Oh wow, 2 red drops there. Pretty lucky. It's actually really good. So we have Hydrocubus again. This one, we do a lot more damage, so we take down the tentacles a lot faster, but he's got a lot more overall health than the other ones, so he's going to take a little bit more. Even though Gleaming Blade does a ton of damage to him, it's still going to take a little bit, but we'll just Flying Swallow, Shuriken cancel into Helm Splitter to take down the tentacles. Try to do Gleaming Blade, ultimate techniques, and finish him off very quickly. Oh. So this part of the run is also a little bit more intense because the enemies here actually have more health and do more damage than they did in other places in the run. So I do kind of have to pay attention a lot of times, especially on these boss fights. So I am hoping for more of the red essence drops so I can refill some more Nympho, but I didn't get any. That's okay. I do have some potions, so... So now we have... The first fight we had Idricubus as a refight. Now we have Jotunfrau as a refight. This Jotunfrau is also... has more health and does more damage than the other Jotunfrau that we fought earlier. It's also not as likely to just remain passive at the start. Okay, that was scary. Like, the grab from this enemy does a ton of damage. So I really don't want to get grabbed. Like, so I'm trying to pay really close attention to that. You can see how much damage just... That wasn't even an actual attack. That was actually just a... her moving, but because I was in the air, I got hit by it. And now she's gonna do ice lands. Very cool, thank you. And we took her down. Alright, so now we're gonna use just one of those and equip the True Dragon Sword. So what I want is for him to throw fireballs at me, not summon enemies. There we go. So throw fireballs and then do this little corkscrew attack. That's actually perfect. And then I'm going to do a specific combo to stun lock Marbus. I do need to focus on it though. Okay, so yeah, that's a stun lock on Marbus. If he gives us that pattern, we hit him with Inazuma, and then we do a specific combo, which is XXXY, and it just keeps him from getting back up, so takes him down pretty quickly. Other than that, if you try to fight him normally, he flies around a lot, summons a lot of the Shadow Fiends, and is an overall pain in the butt. So we got the demon statue, which opens the gate at the top, which leads us to a stairwell. This is going to lead us to the Holy Vigor Emperor. Before that, though, I'm going to pick up some items, which is another Great Devil Elixir, which I'm going to use. An Elixir of Spiritual Health, a Great Elixir, and then I'm going to save here, just in case. Okay. There we go. Now, up the stairs we go. So the Holy Vigor Emperor fight, the first phase is pretty standard. We're just going to be spamming Gleaming Blades on this flying platform. Which is a totally unique thing to this boss fight. It's kind of like... So... Another like trope of action games is they had like these gimmick bosses like towards the end where like you had like these moving platforms or like this shoot 'em up segment, and it was kind of like this silly thing. I don't know why a lot of games did it, to be honest. Like, this boss isn't like hard in my opinion, it's just really tedious, especially since like you're trying to hit all of these blue orbs that are on the body, right? But whenever she does like the laser attack, she gets like this invisible wall next to the orbs. And yeah, it's annoying. So after we defeat that phase, we get the second phase. So here I'm going to equip fire wheels and explosive arrows. And we're just going to try to shoot as many of these skulls as we possibly can. And we want to try to break them up in clumps if we can. And then as when the skulls start to fly towards us, we'll cast the fire wheels. Once Fire Wheels ends, we'll cast it again, and then we'll charge a Gleaming Blade to hit the big skull as it flies towards us. So I'm out of explosive arrows, so I'm going to equip the armor piercing arrows again. Take down as many skulls as possible. The more skulls you hit, the more damage you do, so we use these explosives and the piercing ones in order to do that. I'm actually going to do something here as well because he's got very little health. And sorry, your headphone users. And this is the final chapter. So I'm going to re-equip fire wheels here real quick. And save here because the final boss is going to be coming up in the next couple minutes. And he is, in my opinion, in normal, he's one of the hardest bosses. Like, he is very, very fast. And yeah, he can kill me even with a talisman. So a lot of this part is platforming. When we get to there, this is also like one of the hardest platforming segments in the game. There's a lot of weird, awkward angles as well. So we just kind of have to be careful not to fall. If we fall into the lava, you lose like a minute. Alright, so here we are coming up onto the final boss. Time will be when the boss's health hits 0. I'll try to make sure I say time as soon as it happens. I will have to focus on this fight a lot. I should mention, this is Mirai, by the way. Same Mirai that was training us at the beginning. Time. Okay. Whew. And so that's Ninja Gaiden Black, everyone. This cutscene is actually really cool. I would like to watch it if we can, because it has some of the most epic parts, in my opinion, and Ryu's best lines. But yeah. So yeah, after this whole big ordeal, you know, this big quest, traveling along with Rachel a little bit, saving her life, she helping him, she reaches out lovingly towards Ryu, and he's just like, it's over, turns into a bird and flies off. Absolutely epic. Couldn't write anything better than that. So we do want to check the end game time for IGT, and 141.54. It's not bad. But yeah, thanks again for having me on UKGS to show off this run. It's an awesome game. I love this game. If anyone is interested in running this game, I highly recommend it. You can get it on any Xbox platform. We do have a Discord for the Ninja Gaiden speedrunning community, which covers both 2D and 3D Ninja Gaiden games. the Master Collection just came out for this game. If you can't get an Xbox or don't have an Xbox and you want to play something similar, I recommend the Sigma Master Collection for PC, PlayStation, Switch. Those are all really great, really well made. But yeah, thanks again for having me. It was a fun time.
Thank you for showing off the run, Razor. I was really factual and touching and enjoyed every second. Thank you so much for that. Coming up next, though, we do have Shenmue 2 with Digital Duck, so we'll be back with you in a minute. Thank you so much again. Thank you all the wonderful people on chat who stayed with us for that run. But to keep on tuning in, we're going to have more runs for you soon.